intelligent people do not assume to know what will make them truly happy. We can't just assume that we know what is going to make us happy. We can't just assume that getting that job or signing that client or dating that person or getting married or moving to that place or looking that way is going to be it. At one point, Christmas made a lot of us more happy than it does now. At one point, a birthday party made us feel a lot more happy than it does now. If money made you happy when you were broke, the same amount of money is not going to make you happy when you're rich. Emotionally intelligent people do not assume being fearful is a sign that they are on the wrong path. A sign that you're on the wrong path is indifference. If you are fearful about something, that is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. You're being pushed towards something. That's intention. Who knows if it always will be the right thing? What we do know is that you're on the right path. It might not lead to exactly where you want, but you're going into a direction you know you need to go into. They know that happiness is a choice, but do not feel they need to make that choice all the time. Happiness is not a sustained state of joy. Being happy is moment by moment. If you were only experiencing one emotion all the time, then that's not living. You're not living. You're just in existence. Living the human experience means that you experience all the emotions. And you should allow yourself to say, I'm not in a happy state right now. Emotionally intelligent people know that a feeling will not kill them. You're not going to die because you're angry. You're only going to die if you start doing stupid things because you're angry. Emotionally intelligent people do not confuse a bad feeling for a bad life. When you fight the bad feeling, when you fight the bad day, that is anything but peaceful. If you just come to grips with this is just not a good day for me. It's not my day. I got bad news. I lost a client. Somebody hit the back of my car on the way to the gym, and I just want to go home, go to sleep, and start this one over tomorrow. That's part of life. If I'm fighting against that bad day, if I'm fighting against that bad feeling, I'm causing war within myself. You're able to have peace when you just accept it. This is a bad stretch of life, or this is a bad day, or this is a bad week. These are bad feelings. But this doesn't make it a bad life.
We're live.
Live, live and alive, live and alive. All you come in. All you come in this morning. What's up, sis?
I am good, my man. I'm good on this fine Wednesday morning.
Yes, Wednesday morning. Happy hump day to y'all. Jump in here. I'm trying to
Are you
jump
excited about
on.
tomorrow?
About tomorrow. What's going on tomorrow?
Isn't tomorrow when they're supposed to have the Diddy thing?
Rule 29.
Yeah.
Excited. Good morning, Aretha. Good morning, Win Column moderators. Conversation with Jay moderators. Codex, what's up? I'm not on trial. I'm not excited for anything.
Yeah, but
I'm not on trial.
I really want to see where this is gonna go, man. Like at this point, like the judge has been just holding us like hostage to our own thoughts. Like it's like we're hoping that he does the right thing, but then sometimes he does some stuff that seems a little bit surprising that we feel like he's all right, he's gonna take us there, and then he just blindside us. And I'm just wondering if it's gonna be the same thing tomorrow.
Well, they submitted that like 100 and something page. They submitted like 100 and something page package to the judge with like letters from his family, his mother, his children, Young Miami. I think that was the biggest name that people were talking about yesterday. So they're all also preparing for sentencing, which is the following Friday. And with the Rule 29, I was having a conversation with somebody behind the scenes, and we were just kind of saying it doesn't really make any sense. The judge could have actually just wrote a letter back in response to Rule 29.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that he's having a whole hearing and then 8 days later is sentencing, unless he really was considering it? So you did say the judge. Sometimes it makes sense to us, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think we have to prepare that it might not make sense. Who knows? There's this trial, this whole thing has not made sense. So
True. Yeah.
this whole thing has not made sense. All right. I apologize yesterday, guys. My traveling was delayed, so I wasn't able to jump on yesterday, but we are here today. So good morning to everybody on. I was reading the book this morning, How to Win Friends and Influence People. We're gonna be quick this morning because the book is there's a lot of stories and anecdotes and stuff like that in it. So we'll be quick this morning. But this particular chapter, he was talking. Well, this is, I should also be clear. This is the digital age version. So there's the original version, and then there's tweaks in it. He did make a few changes in it, according to him, for the digital age. So this is the digital age version. Okay, just want to make that clear. All right. So this chapter basically was him. The name of the chapter is Bury Your Boomerangs. And the chapter basically is him explaining to us that if we want people to listen to us, we might not want to be as critical. You know, communication is obviously important for this world on a whole, but specifically for the relationships that mean the most to you. That would be your relationships with your family, your friends, your clients, your coworkers, customers, whatever that looks like to you. So basically any relationship that affects the quality of life that you live. Okay, let's just put it that way. Any relationship that affects the quality of life that you live. And in those relationships, communication is obviously very important. And if you want somebody to listen to you, there's a few things you got to do. This part's not in the book, but this is something that I coach on a lot. And that is, if you truly want somebody to listen to you, you have to be willing to truly listen to them. That's where it will all start, right? If I'm having a conversation with somebody, I have to remember that people listen to people who listen. And as soon as you feel like you're not being heard, that's why a lot of people start raising their voice. They start speaking louder. Like, if you can't hear me, I'm going to speak even louder, right? Obviously, that is basic. What he talks about in this book is a little bit more in depth, because he says something like free speech is not free, right? He said something like that, where he's giving you examples of watching your words. Remember, we have the liberty to say whatever we want, but it isn't free. It is very true that it is not free. You will pay the cost for the things you say, right? An example here, he gives an example of somebody being sued for 10,000 pounds for the things that they said, right? I heard this morning, excuse me, that there was another defamation lawsuit, or somebody would launch another defamation lawsuit for saying things about them, and they might have to pay for them, right? So you can lose money, you can lose friends, you can lose status, you can lose respect. There's a lot of things that you may have to pay the cost in order to just say whatever you want. So what his thing is, don't just say whatever you want. And he gives a really good example in this book, saying, we're not here to just blah 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 say whatever the hell we want. We're here to choose our words wisely. He says you can get fined or even fired for what you say. He says, so we got to watch our words. He said, also, though, many hold the First Amendment sword in one hand, but in the other hand, they hold the Fifth Amendment shield, right? Because they want to be able to say whatever they want. So that's what they hold, that Fifth Amendment, First Amendment sword in one hand, yet still hold the Fifth Amendment shield. And then he talks about the fact that that's why there are so many talking heads today, right? And that really there aren't a lot of leaders out there. There's not a lot of leaders, he says. There's more talking heads than leaders. As leaders, they understand that their words have meaning, and that, I mean, we've all heard the saying from the scriptures talking about how the tongue has the power of life and death, right? So we understand that these words also have influence, right? And it's ironic that I was reading this morning, considering what's happened this month with this whole stuff about whether people are able to say what they want to say. You have Jimmy Kimmel being suspended for saying what he felt like saying. And then you had another person that people say was unalived because of him sharing his opinion. Although I am like, let's not be naive. There was way more to it than just saying your opinion. But people are saying that, right? So, but these things that people are saying, or the things that Jimmy Kimmel, for example, Jimmy Kimmel, he didn't watch his tongue and he got suspended. Is it right? Is it wrong? It's not the point. The point is you have to know that that can happen, that you may have to pay for something. And the sad thing about the Jimmy Kimmel situation is only like a week, I think, that he was off air. I think he was back on air yesterday now, but it was only like a week that he was off air. But the sad thing is, all of the people who work on the show, right? The producers, the lighting crew, there's a whole staff that work on the show. They don't get paid for a week because of the things that Jimmy Kimmel said, right? Because he didn't watch his words. Whether it's right or wrong that he got suspended, it affected them in a negative way, and they lose a week of pay. How many of us can afford to lose one whole week of pay, right? So, it's something that in this book he talks about. It's very important to do. He talks about Abraham Lincoln, and he tells a story in which there was somebody who was supposed to be captured by the army or the general. The general messed up one of their missions. Okay, and Lincoln, the president at the time, he was furious because it didn't have to go the way it went. And so his whole thing was, what are you doing? Why would you do this? He was very angry. So he wrote this really, really long letter. He goes through the letter and whatever. The letter basically rips the general a new one. He's very critical of the general, criticizes him, and a whole bunch of other things. And then they find the letter that he wrote in his house or in his office when he passed away, because he never sent the letter, because he was smart enough to know that bringing that criticism and saying those things probably wasn't going to get his point across. The book says, had he sent the letter, he would have won the battle of words, but would have lost the battle of influence. Yeah, I'll say that again. Had he sent the letter, he would have won the battle of words, but he would have lost the battle of influence. Okay. And he says Lincoln knew when to hold his tongue and when silence was detrimental. So basically, he knew when to speak up and talk the truth and say what needs to be said at this time. And he also knew when it was probably not good to be speaking up. Okay. So, and I like the way he put it here, because he did in the reverse that I just did. Hold your tongue means silence, and then when silence is detrimental means to speak. Yes, but that's a very, very important lesson that we all need to learn. You guys, oftentimes I bring this up. A lot of people started watching this channel during the time that the Diddy trials was, at its peak. That's because we started the channel at that time. And a lot of people had mentioned that I probably shouldn't have been saying the things I was saying about the trial. There's a lot of people who like private message me and say, hey, do you think this is the hill you want to die on? This is, why are you supporting the truth? Basically, that's what they were saying. They're saying supporting Diddy, but really I was just supporting the truth. It just so happened that it was a man that was being wrongfully accused. And the jury saw that as well. But to me, I felt that silence would have been detrimental at that time, because what I was seeing on the news was totally different than what I was seeing in the courtroom. And somebody had to say it, and there were a few of us that started speaking up more and more. And as the trial went on, more and more people, they started speaking up and saying, you know what, this is nonsense. We have to tell the truth. And if it wasn't for those people telling the truth, everybody in this world would have been believing a total lie about somebody, and the whole entire justice system would have just right in front of our eyes, once again, just railroaded us, right? So it was so important to just stick to the truth and tell the truth, and our silence would have been detrimental at that time. But it's also important that you word the things the right way, right? So he talks about this here. He says we should be careful, because when we attempt to use criticism to win an argument, to make a point, or to incite change, we are actually taking 2 steps backward. You know, sometimes people are, good morning, Christina. Sometimes people are, man, sometimes people just really piss us off, and we just want to really just let them have it and win the battle of words. However, that's not going to actually incite change. It's not going to actually influence somebody to do something differently. Okay. It's very, very few times that people respond very, very well to criticism, right? There's some people who respond okay to criticism, sometimes even good, sometimes pretty well. But it's very, very few and far between that people respond very, very well to criticism, especially if it's said in the way that Abraham Lincoln was writing this letter, or the way that some of us talk to each other, right? So again, this type of communication, sometimes things do need to be said 100%. But how are you going to say it? How are you going to say it? Are you going to say it in a way that's tearing the person up, or are you going to say it in a constructive way? Because criticism is not inspiring, or at least rarely inspiring, as according to this book, right? It's rarely inspiring. What it does is it compels people to defend, right? And when somebody's defending, they're not changing and they're not learning. They just want to explain their position, and that's all that they want to get across to us, right? So it's very important that we don't say these things in a way that's demeaning, that's hurtful, that's straight out rude. We have to watch our words, because immediately somebody is going to be compelled to defend, and sometimes even compelled to attack, like attack back, if they feel like they're being spoken to or spoken about in that way, right? Our words are very powerful. And at the end of the day, your messages are more meaningful when you actually remove your agenda. And oftentimes our criticism, when we really go hard on somebody and tear them apart with our words, our agenda is to hurt their feelings. It's clear that our agenda is to hurt them or to discourage them, not to encourage them. Our agenda is to make them feel like crap, not make them feel good. And so those words, they actually then become less meaningful, because you're saying it to promote your agenda. So how genuine are those words, right? It's like when people say, when people say stuff like, I don't, I said that because I was angry. I said it because I was upset, right? That that means that they didn't mean those things, right? Because those words were only because of the agenda that they had. They were only saying those things because of the agenda that they had, right? And it always comes back to bite you in the ass. It really does. Again, guys, you pay for your words. That's why this chapter is called Bury Your Boomerangs, because you think you're throwing it, but it's going to come right back at you. The way you say stuff is so important. When you say stuff is important. And how you say stuff is important. Like Maya Angelou always says, they may not remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel, right? Words are powerful. Opinions are powerful, right? Um, and we're going to be talking about this a lot more this evening. This evening's live. I'm going to be on live with Queen Amadaya Shakur. One of the, I was on live with her last Friday as well, and I've been on her live before. We're going to be talking about this very subject, and how words can be powerful, and how different things can be used and twisted into different ways, and how things are being used to be twisted in different ways in our world right now, in this country right now, right? And um, we're going to dive deep into some of the ways it's happening, but also some of the ways we can make a change just within our own groups, within our own tribes, within our own communities, and hopefully that has a ripple effect outside to other communities. But the change always will start with us, and then it will start with the people around us, and then it will go from there. So we're going to be talking about that this evening. We're going to be live 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this evening. But remember, guys, bury your boomerangs. It's not worth it. All of these things that you say to people, they do have power. So choose to encourage people, choose to build people up, choose to empower people instead of tearing people down, because you're not going to get the result that you think you're going to get. All right. Let's enjoy this wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you all. Go and be great. And I'll see you guys this evening, 7 p.m.
Right now, me feeling high like a helicopter. Spin out your rags in the air like a chopper. Hennessy punching Johnny Walker. Somebody tell the police they just can't stop us. High like a helicopter. Spin out your rags in the air like a chopper. Hennessy punching Johnny Walker. Somebody tell the police they just can't stop us. Oh, when me choppers them. 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 Rags with me, flags with me, rags with me, flags with me, rags with me, flags with me. Yo, spin your rags in the air like a chopper. Wave your rags like a helicopter. Spin out your rags in the air like a chopper. Round and round like a helicopter. Spin your rods in the air like a chopper. Wave your rods like a helicopter. Spin your rods in the air like a chopper. High choppers fly, helicopters. We drunk cause we drink like a fish in the water. So high is like the world spinning faster. Dripping with sweat but it don't really matter. The music making me ball out. We see ladies and we call out. Them girls and them whining all out. Look a fight in the back, them brawl out. What? Me no business about that. Girls on me mind, so me thinking about that. Woman in the place, so me hunting for that. Bumpers in me face, so me on the attack. Just give me Henny, yo, give me Stag. No racial thing, white oak, Johnny Black. Oh gosh, I could catch a jet lag. 1919 does have me feeling high like a helicopter. Spin out your rags in the air like a chopper. Hennessy punching Johnny Walker.